Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of our show.
Hi.
So in the last episode, I talked a little bit about buying a car the way that we have, at least for the past two vehicles that we've purchased. And so this time we're going to talk about part two, which is what you can do when you're actually at the dealership.
So we're going to pick up right where he left off. You should, if you followed his steps, have a list of a handful of cars that you want to go see and potentially ranking those cars. So now you're ready to go test drive them, which is the fun part. When you test drive, obviously you want to drive the car in an area that's going to be similar to where you're actually going to be driving once you buy the car. So if this is going to be your vehicle that you're taking to work, try to find roads that are similar to your commute. Also check some things that you might not necessarily think about while you're doing the test drive. So if it's a nice sunny day, you might not think, oh, let's flip on the wipers. But you should check things like that, the audio system, the windows, because those are things that if there's something wrong, you're going to want to mention that up front before you're ready to buy.
If you're purchasing from a reputable dealer, then they should have the history of that vehicle, whether it be a Carfax or something similar. You always want to make sure that you have that. You've probably seen those annoying commercials with the Carfax, but it really is a good point. You need to ask for the vehicle history. If they don't provide it to you willingly, the reason is there could be something very wrong with the vehicle, or at least could have been something wrong with it in the past that hasn't fully been fixed, and it could just be something that you wouldn't notice until you have the vehicle for a while. Another note on that, if it's something that you are concerned about, the dealer should never have a problem if it's something that you want to do and you want to take your vehicle in to your preferred garage and get an inspection because maybe it seems like it's too good to be true. A dealer should never have an issue with that. If they do, then that should be a red flag for you that this is probably not the vehicle for you.
Once you have your test drives done and you have inspections done, all of that, you might think that you're ready to buy, but go ahead and wait a little while. Don't be afraid to take enough time. We've said in previous videos, maybe take up to 24 hours to really think about big decisions. Car buying is a big decision. That'll allow you to not only compare the cars that you drive, the cars that you drove, but it also will show the salesperson that you're not afraid to walk away and you're not afraid to say no. So that will add a little bit of leverage when you're talking about prices.
On that note, when we actually purchased Mary's car, when we were looking for other vehicles before we had made the final purchase, we had visited the dealership where I got my car. The representative that we worked with was trying to pressure us into buying one basically right before the store was closing, and we told her that, sorry, we just don't make any split-second decisions like that. We always take some time to think about it. And she was a little bit aggressive in saying, well, I stayed late so that you could, and we just said, well, we're sorry. So you have to be willing to walk away in that sort of situation, or else it's possible that you could be overspending for a vehicle.
And you can always go back. They're going to take your sale no matter what. In that case, we found a better vehicle that we're really happy with and we ended up buying. That was a much better deal.
So I'm going to give you guys the top 6 suggestions I could come up with as far as how you should handle yourself at the dealership. And the number one thing is probably the most important. You should buy a car using cash.
Whoa!
I know, right? You don't have to take a car payment home with you. I talked about in the previous episode just how much money it costs to finance a vehicle. We talked both about new and used vehicles, but if you think about that, it is possible to buy a used vehicle, especially without ever taking a payment home. And that's what I would definitely recommend to you, if at all possible, buy a used vehicle and pay for it in cash. It's going to save you a lot of money in the long term. So my second piece of advice is that Kelley Blue Book is not an opinion. When we purchased Mary's Saab, as we discussed as one of our biggest regrets, the dealer was very smooth talking. He also caught us at a junction where we really needed a vehicle. When I presented to him that the Kelley Blue Book value on the car was lower than what the asking price that they had, he essentially told me that he doesn't really put much stock into Kelley Blue Book. And so what my response should have been in the moment was, well, I can respect that, but I deal in Kelley Blue Book values because that's what the rest of the world deals in. My third piece of advice is that mileage does not really matter to me. I'm not too concerned about how many miles a vehicle has. What I'm more interested in is how many miles per year has that vehicle had since it was manufactured. The reason why I find this to be more important is because vehicles can last for as long as you're willing to let them run. And if you find a vehicle with a low yearly mileage, it means most likely that that car has been babied.
So a couple years ago, when we were looking for my Volkswagen, I thought that it might be a good idea to look at cars that were owned by rental services. I rent cars pretty often for work, and I found a lot of models that I really like by driving rental cars. And when I realized that places like Enterprise sell those cars, I thought, oh, wow, that could be great. They'll have low miles because they turn over cars very quickly. But they have a lot of miles, even though they're very new. And when people are driving rentals, they're just driving them far, they're driving them hard. And so that's not obviously going to be as good value or as well taken care of as a car that might have 100,000 miles, but that was put on over years.
My fourth suggestion or piece of advice to you would be to deal in out-the-door costs if at all possible. When I purchased my vehicle 4 years ago, the representative was actually only willing to talk in out-the-door costs, which was awesome because we didn't have all of these extra fees that sort of get added in after you think you've secured this awesome deal. So that's all I want to say.
It's kind of a no-brainer. It's much simpler to deal in those terms. You know what you're paying for, and there are no surprises at the end.
Tip number 5 is don't get caught up in resale value. I know too many people that spend way more than they need to on a vehicle because they're convinced that when they go to sell this vehicle that it's going to have more value than something that they could have spent less money on in the beginning.
Keep in mind, our advice right now is for people who are maybe in a similar situation to us and you're trying to make smart money decisions but ultimately save money. And so this car isn't going to be an investment. So don't think about what you're going to resell this car for, because ideally you'll be driving this car until it dies. So it's not going to be worth anything at the end anyway.
And my number 6 tip, the last tip that I have for you, is find something that fits you and your personality. The thing is that there are a lot of vehicles out there, a lot of different styles, a lot of different makes and models. And there's a vehicle out there that will fit your personality. And so I encourage you that if you're going to spend your money, especially if you're going to pay for this vehicle in cash, your hard-earned dollars, make it something that you're going to enjoy being in, enjoy driving, something that makes you feel good. It doesn't make sense to make a large purchase of something that you hate. It's not a good idea. You're not going to stick with it. All right, so some of you might be sitting there and saying, that's great. What are your credentials in this advice that you're giving us? And so I just want to talk to you guys about the vehicles that we've had. We were trying to figure out how long we've had Mary's vehicle now, her Volkswagen. I think it's been 3 years now. I think I originally told her 2, but I think it's been 3 years. I've had my vehicle for 4 years. And so we'll talk just in chronological order how we came about our vehicles. When I was looking for a vehicle, I knew that I was moving up from a small 2-door convertible. I absolutely loved it. My car was Black Betty. It was a Volkswagen, gosh. It was a 2000 Volvo C70, all black. I absolutely love that vehicle, but I just knew that I needed something a little bit bigger because we wanted to be able to take our dogs easily places with us. And I wanted to have 4 doors. It was kind of a little bit obnoxious to only have 2. Black Betty was my second vehicle. My first vehicle was also a coupe, so I'd never had 4 doors on a vehicle before. So I made a wish list, and at the top of my wish list was a Porsche Cayenne. And I knew that the reason why I liked that was just because I really like foreign vehicles and I like sort of the sport luxury look.
He does.
So I was looking for Cayennes. However, a lot of them, especially if they were newer, were out of my price range. However, it just so happened that there was a dealership about a mile away from our house that had a Porsche Cayenne base model that had 85,000 miles on a vehicle that was 10 years old. So that's 8,500 miles per year, which I think the average is somewhere around 15,000 miles. So I knew this thing was babied. It was in pristine condition, inside and outside. When we worked with the dealer, as we mentioned in one of our previous episodes about purchases that we don't regret, The dealer that we worked with was very straightforward, and he only wanted to talk in out-the-door cost. We gave him a number that was about $4,000 below the KBB value of the vehicle in out-the-door cost, so not even including the fees. And he went away and came back after a few minutes and said, all right, let's do it. So it was a really good deal. We paid for it in cash. I drive a Porsche, and a lot of people think that I'm rich because of that, but the same people that call me rich are driving around in vehicles that are 4, 5, 6 times more expensive than the vehicle that I drive. And so I get a lot of compliments on it. I love the way it looks. I'm going to drive that thing until it does not drive anymore. And so I just feel I was ecstatic about the deal we got on it.
So when I was looking for my vehicle, I didn't have really an idea in mind of what I wanted. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, I did know some models that I enjoyed from renting cars. And so I was more looking for something small, easy to drive, had good gas mileage. So I was looking for something that was probably newer than 2010 and probably had around 50,000 miles. Those were my beginning criteria, and I started narrowing things down. We started doing some test drives, and I found that I really liked a couple of Volkswagen models. We found a hybrid that I really enjoyed, and so we weren't really happy with that exact one, but that helped me. Yeah, it was too expensive, but it was the very first Volkswagen hybrid, and so we weren't sure that it was going to be a great value, that it wouldn't have problems down the road. But that helped me narrow down my criteria later. We found a dealer, again, that was very close to where we lived and also had the benefit of being a high volume dealer. So their cars were priced to sell, and we knew going in that the price on the car would be the price that we would pay. So that made that very simple. The car we chose was a bit older and had more miles than what we were looking for, or what I was starting to look for. But because it was priced so low and the test drive went so well, I really, again, like Nick, I like how it looks. It was just a really great deal. So we decided to go with that. The dealer was also helpful in taking care of some of those cosmetic things that needed done. And it was a great experience there too.
Another vehicle that people think that we have a lot of money for owning, but we don't. We paid like $7,000 for that car in cash. I purchased my Cayenne for under $12,000 in cash, and we walked away from both dealerships without a car payment. We have cars that we get compliments on all the time. They've been really reliable for us. Yeah, these have just been really great deals for us. We have both our vehicles came under $20,000 in cash, and as I mentioned in the previous episode, that is less than you would spend on one certified pre-owned vehicle on average in 2019.
Yeah, so it just goes to show doing what may seem like quite a bit of research and quite a bit of looking around, time and effort on the front end could get you cars that are just a great value and last you for a really long time.
If you ever have any questions, you can always reach out to us. Our email's below. It's nickandmary@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out, comment, whatever you think. Do you guys have any awesome car buying tips that you think that we missed? And if so, please let us know. We'd love to hear from you.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. We put out videos on the 1st and 15th of every month. So if you enjoy it, make sure you subscribe and tell others. If at all possible, buy a used vehicle and pay for it in cash. It's going to save you a lot of money in the long and the short term. Well, no, it's not. It's going to save you a lot of money in the long term.
Yep. Nelly thinks so too.
Yeah. Say 3 years ago, before I bought my Volkswagen, or whatever. Yeah. I think it was 2 years.
Okay. That doesn't matter though.
It does. You don't want to be a liar.
Let me just go.